Hello everyone, a very warm welcome from myself. My name is Barry Clyde, I am the CEO of MITIS Health, and together we're going to undertake a quick journey to highlight the MITIS Health client connecting to a hospital in Ireland to simulate what a standard user or radiologist would do working from home. I am presenting my desktop. I'm currently situated in the south of England, and as mentioned earlier, I will be connecting to a desktop located in Ireland. The MITIS Health environment runs off a typical client-server model where the user or radiologist working from home would have a pre-installed client installed into the Windows 10 desktop, and they would be connecting to a server. This server is called the mitus appliance and will be situated within the data center in the hospital. To load the mitus client, I'm going to open the Windows search bar and type the word mitus. After typing mitus, you will see the Mitus Connect app appear. We're going to click this to launch the application. The mitus client is simple, easy, and relatable to a standard user. Inside here, we've got the option to connect to any one of our demo suites. For the purpose of this illustration, we've got a demonstration suite in China, USA, and Ireland. To proceed, we'll simply click on the demo suite Ireland to challenge the user for authentication to that hospital. As you can see in front of you, we're now challenged for authentication. This part of the connection process is interrogating the mitus appliance at the hospital. So the user is now challenged for their AD, username and password. Because we're coming in externally, the mitus client supports multi-factor authentication and certificate-based authentication. For the purposes of this demonstration, we will be utilising Active Directory single-factor authentication with a standard challenge and response. I'm going to insert the username and the password. And click Login. What's happening here is that the mitus client is negotiating a highly encrypted stream of communications to the mitus appliance. Once this has been achieved, the virtual machine in the hospital will load, and we will now see the desktop of the Windows 10 machine within the hospital being presented to the user. As you can see, we are now being presented with the Windows 10 desktop within the hospital. At this point, depending on what user is logging in, whether it be a clinical user, in accident and emergency, or outpatients, or wards, or a specialist consultant such as a radiologist, cardiologist, or pathologist, we can now choose where we want to take this. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to be concentrating on the specialist user, so the radiologist, and we're going to load up a couple of dicom images and really show you the power of the mitus client and the communication stream, and more importantly, the lossless aspect of the session. Moving on, we're going to be opening up an application called Radiant Dicom Viewer. This application is what we'll be using to simulate opening up specific dicom images. However, when the mitus gateway is installed into the hospital, this application would be replaced by the hospital's very own PACS and RIS environment. We're going to open up a case study. The demonstration will conclude a CT trauma. We'll open up the study now, and we can see that the images, now this is a 901 slice CT scan, has already loaded and has been assimilated into the Radiant packs ready for reporting. It's worth noting that a CT scan of this size would take considerable time to download it via VPN to the radiologist's workstation from home. Obviously, using the MITIS gateway and appliance, we are streaming the dicom image across, so there is no big data set transfer out of the hospital. What you've just seen is the illustration of the dicom image loading in the workstation at the hospital and communicating to the PACS machine also within the highly connected network. With the CT scan now fully loaded into the PACS viewer, we can now start scrolling through the different slices of the CT scan, noting that the images are crisp, clear and highly responsive. We can see also the visual acuity, the fidelity and the lossless aspect is running really well, and it's correlating to what the user would experience when reporting within the trust. We'll now go and start 3D volume rendering of the CT scan. So what you see in front of you is the 3D volume rendering of the top part of the body. And what we'll do is we'll take a rather unconventional approach. Instead of putting in all the nice lossless environment, we're going to take it off, and we're going to also take off our NVIDIA vGPU graphics agent and highlight what a lossy image looks like without using the nice features. By removing the lossless technology and the graphical engine, which is vGPU based from NVIDIA, we can now rotate the skeleton and see that the quality is poor, is very pixelated, grainy and not of a good enough standard to report against. Switching the vGPU graphical engine and lossless environment back on again, we can now see that the image has recovered, it's smooth, and we're able to manipulate it and really show and highlight the problems that we see in this image. We can then go and zoom in, add and remove layers of the scan, and further rotate the image, really harnessing the power of this lossless environment. We're now going to show you the MPR aspect, which is highlighting how many slides and how many instances we can have running in parallel to really emphasize the power of the MITIS protocol. With the MPR program now launched, we can now scroll through the different axial slices of the CT scan once again, but monitor that the left and the bottom quadrants of the screen are also reacting to the movement of the slides. Finally, bringing this demonstration to a conclusion, we can see that this has been heavily weighted on radiology and specific specialist use cases in a hospital. However, now that we're more comfortable with the MITIS application and what it does, you'll clearly see that this can lend its hand to other departments within the hospital, such as accident and emergency, wards, consultants, outpatients, and really drive that ability for clinical staff to work from home.
That concludes the demonstration. Thank you very much for listening.